Welcome back to Kaulig Nation, your one-stop shop for all things Kaulig, NASCAR, Dinger Nation, SVG Nation, and all that much more. Joining me as always, my good buddy Ryan, and today we are taking a look back at the weekend that was. There's definitely some stuff to dive into, but I think all in all, it was probably a pretty uneventful weekend at the end of the day. But I do think there's more to talk about in terms of the Xfinity series than there is the Cup series, which we'll have a video out for you tomorrow. Dude, just general thoughts on the Xfinity race, what you got to see, and I know there's like some specifics I want to get into, but like, are you not thankful that we only go to this place once a year now?
Yeah, I'll tell you, the Xfinity race was, in my opinion, miles ahead of the Cup race in terms of quality of racing. Because while Pocono is always kind of known for long green flag runs, everybody gets really stretched out. At least with the Xfinity cars, they were able to, if there was a speed differential, you could catch and pass somebody. And yeah, I am very thankful that the Poconos once a year. I'm also thankful they shortened the races because, man, when they were 500 miles, they were just made my eyes bleed. But yeah, the Xfinity race was actually pretty exciting. I thought, all things considered, the Kaulig cars were pretty good. AJ was definitely miles ahead of the other three Kaulig cars, which everything is so technical, and the skill level really shows itself. But I didn't, even though AJ finished sixth, which is about where I predicted him to finish, his car was certainly capable of a top 2 or 3 finish, and had a chance to probably win the race if he didn't make that mistake. So I was pleasantly surprised with AJ's speed, and honestly, all 4 Kaulig cars were, in my opinion, pretty good this weekend, especially at a track that I wasn't having super high expectations.
Yeah, it was a mixed bag. I was frustrated with the move AJ made. I thought it was ill-advised at the wrong time, and I literally called him. Well, to be fair, I called him wrecking, not saving it. As he was making it, I looked at the wife. I was like, "This is a bad move." You can tell the entry, just no room. Um, and he had some pace. He was probably the third or fourth fastest car on the track between his talent and what the car was giving him, and probably would have had a better shot at winning the race had that not happened, because he had to race his way up there on old worn down tires to get sixth. Like, he was on 15, 20 lap older tires than everybody else. So kudos to him on that. Daniel Dye almost had a top 15, lost it on the last lap, went from 15th to 17th. I think Josh Williams was 18th, and then SVG was 31st. Quickly on Dye and Williams. Dye, I think, showed this weekend there's room for growth before we go announcing him the next Xfinity driver, full time or anything like that. Maybe we need to pump the brakes a little bit, especially with Josh Williams locked into a ride next year, apparently. So get your thoughts on that too, dude. But I thought they were okay. They were 20th place cars. SVG was around the same, actually a little worse for most of the race, but like always, he gained a bit as the race went on. And I actually loved what Bruce and company did with SVG in that race in terms of running him long. They caught the caution, put him up to, I think, 12th or 13th on the restart. He grabbed a couple of spots on the restart, which I think is big for him because restarts are his weak spot. Even on a road course, he has not been good on restarts. So it was nice to see him gain a couple of positions. And I have big doubts whether he would have held on for a top 10. And like, I love SVG Nation. I love the support that we have here from everyone across the pond. You and I both love SVG, but I've seen some. He had top 10 speed. He had top 10 speed. Could have had a top 5 if he kept going. It's like, no, guys, you're watching a different race. He was a 20th place car at best all race. Not only was I watching him, I was watching AJ, I was watching the lap times. I really wanted to see how much he could gain because throughout practice and qualifying, he's a full second off of AJ. A full second. That's massive in NASCAR. And by the end of the race, he was about 3 or 4 tenths. Those are massive gains. SVG Nation should be proud of that, man. SVG should be proud of that. And honestly, he probably would have had a top 15 for sure. I don't think he would have lost that many spots had Sam Mayer not hit him. And then I guess he spun out again after that. We didn't really get footage of that one, though. Your thoughts on SVG and his weekend? I thought all in all it was good, just didn't get the result that he probably deserved.
Yeah, well, let me touch on Daniel Dye and Josh Williams just super quick because, listen, they are drivers and they did have a pretty good race this weekend. And Daniel Dye, again, I just want to emphasize, just turned 20 years old. He is still very young. First time really coming to this track. I think he was here once before in the trucks. And yet he unloaded faster than Josh. He unloaded faster than SVG. Was he contender for top 15 on speed? Probably not this weekend, but he still unloaded pretty good and ran a solid, clean race. And really, that's what I want to see progress, turn the laps, right? And Josh ran pretty good too. He's pretty much a top 20 car all day, finished 18th. I predicted 19th. So I can't complain about it. I know he's on a 2-year deal. We did confirm that this week, which I guess at the end of the day, I'm not super disappointed about because I kind of expected that, especially bringing in somebody with sponsorship money, you're going to lock that in for a little bit. So that probably does limit Kaulig's possibilities in terms of the free agent market next year, but that's for another video. But all in all, I thought they were pretty good. For SVG, as you said, coming off of practice and qualifying where he was a full second off of AJ, and now AJ's your rabbit, right? Like that's the guy you're chasing. And AJ had a third place car this weekend, so you're chasing a car that was good enough to end driver that was probably third place, so that's where you're going. To gain from a second to 3/10, especially at a track like Pocono, which is you're turning 55-second laps, right? Like it's a long, big track, and if you're within 3/10, that's pretty solid. But I do agree with you. He struggled a bit with the corners. I think I expected him to adapt to the track a little bit better than he did. So he probably was around 20th in terms of pace throughout the race, but it's more than just the driver, right? And I want to emphasize that it's a team sport. Obviously, the driver is very crucial, but you have to have good pit stops. You have to have good pit calls. And yet again, his pit crew gained him 7 or 8 spots over the course of the race, which is massive. Bruce Schlichter had an excellent strategy. And I think all 3 of the other Kaulig cars were on the similar strategy. They got them all a pretty good track position. He basically ran long, caught the caution, was able to put on fresh tires, got himself right around 10th or 11th there. So, through strategy, through good pit stops, he was in position. And I definitely want to emphasize that little caution fest where we had 2 or 3 cautions in a row, he gained 1 or 2 spots every single restart. He was 15th, and then he worked his way up to 10th. In fact, I think he might have even gotten up to 9th for a very short period of time. So that, again, was very impressive for SVG to adapt, especially at a track like Pocono where you're 5, 6 wide, right? So being able to dice through those restarts, make the gains that he did was super impressive. And I even told you this before the race. Pocono is always a track position race. Even if you're not running as fast as the car front or behind, you get so spread out that he might have lost 1 or 2 spots, but he was going to bring it home 10th or 11th, maybe 12th. And that was going to be an excellent day for the team. And that's the one thing I just want to continue to encourage the SVG fans is that even on days when you don't have the best speed in the world, when the team executes, you can put yourself in position. And he was in position for a top 10. It didn't obviously pan out, but I was extremely pleased with the team's performance, SVG's performance throughout the course of the race. So again, those are building blocks for the rest of this year and next year when he makes most likely the leap up to Cup.
Pocono's such a technical course. I don't know if you've raced it on iRacing. I have. I fucking hated it. like, I was okay in the tunnel turn, and but other than that, not so much. Um, and it's so damn big, and the Kaulig cars, even in Xfinity, didn't have the horsepower that the couple of top cars did. AJ mentioned that even though they brought a better piece for him than I thought they were going to. Um, and so I was a bit surprised, but even after the race, AJ just said, it's still not where we need to be. Like, we want to win races. Like, AJ's crew didn't capitalize like SVG's did. Like, if he did, we're probably talking about a different race, and he's not in that position on a restart. AJ's crew was minus again on the weekend, and it's not a great look, but I was happy with the pace that they had because I didn't think when he spun, that should have been it. I didn't think he was going to sniff a top five. He got sixth, but I didn't think he would sniff a top five, man. I thought maybe top 15. Um, and he got most of his spots back, not in terms of strategy. He passed cars. he was slicing and dicing, and it was pretty impressive to watch as an Allmendinger fan. Um, but yeah, it's one of the reasons though when we talk about SVG, I caution people like, hey, yeah, he's going to do really good at the road courses. I'm still not sold he's going to be as good at a traditional road course in the Cup Series as he is the street course. That's just the way those things go. And Trackhouse this year compared to Trackhouse last year, if it's a Trackhouse car he's in, they're not putting out the same material they did a year ago. So you're going to have painful weekends, but when your team executes, like Ryan was saying, sometimes when you're running 25th or 30th, you can finish 15th. Everything's just got to kind of fall your way. But I do hope that SVG Nation is ready for when he goes to the Cup Series that you're going to hit places like Pocono and Darlington and Phoenix and a bunch of other tracks where it's like, oh, well, this is a fucking nightmare. And you're going to have to deal with it. You got to get used to your guy running 30th place because it's going to happen. Like, sorry, but it is absolutely going to happen. The good part for Trackhouse or Kaulig or wherever he races is 5 or 6 times a year, he is going to have a shot at almost a guaranteed top 10 if nothing goes wrong, and a shot at winning the race if things go right. And there's not many other drivers that aren't racing for top tier teams where you can say they have 5 or 6 bullets in the chamber to win a race. And you know what? In time, he will get better at speedway racing too. Marcus Ambrose adjusted to it. Ambrose and Allmendinger. I remember when they were what was that? When they were doing the duo
The
racing there.
tandem
The
drafting.
tandem. Guess what? Those guys were going to the front on every single super speedway when they were teammates for the year. So it can happen. I just want people to be patient. That's all. And I also wouldn't be shocked seeing what I seen at Pocono if Justin Marks said, "Hey, the cars might not be similar, but Zane Smith is turning his season around. That is clear. He got wrecked out in Cup, and we'll talk about that in the next video. But the better Zane Smith runs and the more SVG struggles at just ovals, there probably can be a conversation to be had over who goes where. But that's a discussion for another video. Final thoughts, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to quickly touch on a few points. First and foremost, I recognize, and I'm not being a homer here, Trackhouse is the better organization than Kaulig. That's not a question. But I definitely want to reinforce the fact that right now, Ross Chastain is only 25 points above the cut line on the playoff bubble. He is the playoff bubble. He is 16th in points. And Daniel Suarez is in because he did get that win at Atlanta, but 0.13 second margin of victory. If he doesn't get that, he's not kissing the playoffs.
I'd say he's out if
he's out. He's out, exactly. So while Trackhouse equipment is better than Kaulig equipment, I definitely want to set an expectation. Now, Trackhouse could make some off-season gains, so could Kaulig. But, when we reference the performance of the cars, Trackhouse is not where they were 2 years ago. They are probably right now, arguably the fifth best team in Cup. It's manageable, but it's there's not as big of a gap as maybe some people think there is. But to the SVG Ready for Cup experience, his obvious talent is the road courses, and he has opportunities to obviously win. He could also get some playoff points there. And somebody mentioned, we had a conversation in the comments on one of our last videos about, hey, where is SVG at even in Xfinity Series playoffs, right? He has 17 playoff points thanks to his 3 wins and a couple stages. And he's going to need all 17 of those points going into those oval races, as we saw this weekend at Pocono, where he's running 20th. If he finishes 20th, he's going to need every one of those playoff points. So he obviously gives himself those opportunities at the road courses, at the street courses. But elsewhere, it's going to be a bit of a struggle for him, but I definitely think there's speed in him and he improves throughout the races. But, he has to rely a little bit on those street courses and road courses to give himself a chance at the ovals going forward. So, and now as we kind of wind through the season, there's only Watkins Glen left and the Roval left. So there aren't nearly as many places the rest of the year for either him or AJ to gain points. So definitely as we go down the home stretch here, I'm rooting for him. I expect him to do well, but it's getting down to that point in the season where it's going to get really tough really fast.
Yeah, and again, SVG fans might not be happy with me saying this, and I am an SVG fan, but I'm an Allmendinger guy first, and I'm a Kaulig guy first before SVG. I love SVG. I love when outside North America driver comes in, specifically just anyone outside NASCAR comes in and applies what they know to the NASCAR series. I really dig that. But my final point is this, or my final prediction is this for this video before we go, is I do not think you're going to see SVG have the same level of success at Watkins Glen, in Xfinity and or in Cup, or at the Roval as he did places like Sonoma, Portland, and Chicago. And the number one reason for that is those other 2 tracks, drastically different. Drastically different. I don't think he'll be close to AJ, but I think you're going to see a switching of the guard, if you will, there. That doesn't mean you can't win. You can stay in touch with the leaders and still be able to pull off a W. So just, be patient. NASCAR is a little bit of a different beast. And I think only good things are going to come for SVG. I just, like you, seen a lot of comments about, well, wait till he gets to Trackhouse, wait till he gets to Trackhouse. And, Dale Jr. with his Kaulig butt end of the joke bit there. And I know he's joking, but Kaulig's struggling. But guess what? Trackhouse trajectory is this way, not this way right now. And I think that's something to pay attention to going forward. Let us know what you thought of the Xfinity race down below. The wreck, was it intentional? Looked intentional to me, man. I like Sam Mara, but that was a hard hit. Comment down below, like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications to all to keep up to date with all of our content. This was one of our longer videos in a little bit, but there's not much to discuss in the Cup race. If you're wondering if you should tune into that, though, if you're an SVG fan, please do, because we're going to bring out some comparisons there, and you'll want to tune into that one for sure as well, even though he didn't race at Pocono. But for Ryan, I'm Sean, and we'll see you next time in the next video.